Sometimes people organize things really weird.
Yeah, so there's the AI guys right there up at the top. AI.
Where are you at?
I'm not even showing myself.
Nope.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
So,
Anything to help.
yeah, I can use a lot. Okay, so
You're not supposed to admit to that.
okay, thanks for that as well. So right
So somebody just asked a question about the dies. I mean, official dies are very hard to find because they would keep striking the coins until the dies broke. And so that's why you get a lot of die wear on ancient coins, because as they were striking, you get a die flaw or a break in the die, and you see that same crack happen over and over again, or that same flaw happen over and over again. Sometimes I think it's funny when, not funny, but it's interesting when some people will condemn a coin because they say it has the same blemishes, the same marks, so it's obviously a cast. Well, it could be that it's from the same die.
Sure.
It doesn't mean that it's fake. Right. So people forget that these things are mass produced, they're not one-of-a-kind pieces. Right. And so there's a very good chance that you're going to have that. So what dies do survive are forgery dies. And when I say forgery, I mean contemporary forgeries. So you're having a bunch of silver and you you create a die in the ancient times based on an official coin, and you would strike either full silver coins, or they were cheating, and so they would actually strike a coin that looked like an official coin with a copper core and a silver wash. That's called a foray. And so that's what they were really making the forgers dies for that reason, to be able to screw somebody over. And I actually have one. I've showed it on this show before, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
I actually have a forger's die. So that's a forger's die.
Okay, let me grab you here. Yes.
And this is a reverse of a Antonized Pius, I believe.
Okay, cool.
And so it's copper. So this is all copper here. And then they would strike this until, so that would be the reverse. You get the obverse die, and then they would strike the coin. And so as they're hammering these things, they would break apart. And because they didn't create as many forgeries as the official dies, a lot of these can survive. They're still rare, but in fact, C&G has I believe it's a forger's die. It might be official, but I think it's a forger's die of an Athens tetragram coming up in their next mail bid sale.
Oh wow!
So, and I actually viewed it at the ANA. It was pretty cool. So,
is it a good die too, kind of, or?
It was a very good die. It was a reverse. Actually, if you want to hold on a second, somewhere in the piles of crap that I have on hold on. I know there's a copy out here. Hold on a second.
Piles of antiquity. Question: is the offset strike on the coin or worn out on one side? So, yeah, sometimes one side of the die will be more worn than the other.
Here's the C&G sale that's coming up the end of September, or middle to end of September. And let me find the die here. So it should be in Greek.
So one die might be fresh, like this side might be a fresh die, whereas this back.
Yeah, they would swap out dies when they break, right? So Or they had problems. So you might have a fresh obverse die and a weak reverse die.
Yep.
Or vice versa. And there was some quality control there, but you got to remember, they were just popping out to, gold and silver were treasury coins, and so they were literally just, it was all about the amount of weight of silver and gold in the coin. So the imagery, yes, was important, but not so important. Where is that die? Where do they stick it? Sometimes people organize things really weird.
Yeah, so there's the AI guys right there up at the top. AI.
Where are you at?
I'm not even showing myself.
Nope.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
So,
Anything to help.
yeah, I can use a lot. Okay, so
You're not supposed to admit to that.
okay, thanks for that as well. So right there, it kind of looks like the hair.
C&D feature. Yeah. Okay. So it's lot 127. Thank you. 126. Here it is.
TheBee helping out as well.
There's the.
Okay.
There's
Oh
the,
yeah. Oh cool. Oh wow. It's a big square piece. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I held it in my hand. It was pretty cool. Actually, you'll like this even more. Just keep it on me for a second.
Okay.
You're gonna have something that most people don't have.
Sweet. Thanks, TheBee.
Videos.
TheBee is always helping out where he can as well.
Oh, here it is. Here's a video of it.
Oh wow. Oh,
So that's
wow, that's cool.
That's when I held it at the recent ANA. You can see how big it is.
Man. Both that's in on one both on one die there. That's interesting. Okay.
No, that's just the reverse die.
Oh, okay.
It's just the outside.
What's that thing on the side there?
I think that was to hold it in place.
Okay.
You know, to hold the reverse die in place. It probably had some kind of
tongs
or something.
holder.
What do you feel? The 10,000 is it legit? Yeah, I think it's legit. I think it'll probably, look, there was a Mark Anthony Legionary Denarius die. I think it brought about 10 grand a number of years ago. And I bought this forger's die of this Pius. I only paid like 4,000 for it, which I thought was really cheap because they're really rare. But it's not as popular as, say, an Athens tetragram. So I think that the chances of it going for 10 to 15,000, I could see it going higher, isn't out of the realm of possibilities.
Yeah.
So they're so rare. And it really, if you're a serious coin collector and you have a lot of money, then, owning some of, even though it's a forger's die, it represents what the dies could have looked like, the official ones at the time. So,
sure, yeah.
And actually own the production of something that you hold so dearly, I think is pretty damn cool.
Oh, it's amazing.
I mean, that's why I'm not selling the die. I actually have the die put away for this type of thing.
Yeah.
So I can show it off when I want to. I mean, I can always sell it, but I can never get it back.
Right.
So, how easy is something to replace? And yes, I'm a dealer. I'm not supposed to be collecting, but we're all kind of collectors at heart. So, look, what I'm buying to sell to other clients are coins that I like. And so I'm only going to buy things that I think have a good resale value. But I'm also, from a collector standpoint, I'm buying things that I enjoy, that I think other people will enjoy as well. I'm not going to buy a coin just to buy a coin unless it's dirt cheap, so I can make it dirt cheap to the next person. But if it's something I really like, I'm okay spending X amount on it because I know that somebody else is going to appreciate it as a collector like I do. So
yeah, very cool.
Yeah, I agree with you, Doug. I think any kind of dies, forgery or not, are very collectible, very, very collectible.
Yeah, sure.
Well, since especially when you get contemporary ancient ones, it's pretty cool.
Contemporary. What do you mean by that? Contemporary.
Well, they're made at the same time as the official ones.
Okay.
They're still 2,000-year-old dies.
Sure.
So that's just, they were forgeries at the time. They're not modern forgeries. They're contemporary. I mean, contemporary to the time.
So I was reading a bit in this book that you sent me, which is very, very interesting. and he was talking a bit about some of the crude and rough done stuff, and you wonder if some of the, you know, dies like you're saying like that was probably for forays, you're saying, right, instead of an official, or do you, the one you have?
Mine's a not an official. Mine is a forgery.
For foray. And he was talking about in this book maybe even sometimes being minted out in the field, and that
Sure.
might be where some of the crude coins are coming from. Like,
Sure. I mean, it's look, a really good example of forays that could have been done officially are coins minted by Brutus of the Eidmar, the famous, very famous, you know, Eidmar coin. Because he was in a civil war against Augustus and Mark Antony, and so if he was running out of silver, he may have passed off some of the Eidmars as forays, because it seems to be that a lot of the forays are struck with official dies, and so it could have been that his minters were screwing over their own military, or they were paying him to mercenaries to fight. So
yeah, interesting. All right.
But forays are very collectible. A lot of people love collecting forays because they're usually a lot cheaper. Look, an Eidmar now, official Eidmar is like, one just brought $1.2 million in auction. You're looking at 200,000 to 300,000 minimum for an official Eidmar, but a foray might only cost you, between $10,000 and $50,000. Still a lot of money, and most people can't afford that. But it's a lot less than an official struck one.
That might be why there's so few older
Dies.
dies.
Well, I think it's just because they were iron and they were striking coins and they would just break apart. So
and some of the nicer ones, I heard someone say, maybe it was you, that some of them might have been just done for a certain, like a games or something, or an event.
Well, there definitely are. Like every medallion is sort of unique, and so there are bronze ones that are less unique, but gold and silver medallions are generally unique and just produced for special occasions. But they were done officially. And so they typically didn't exist. I actually, just sitting here thinking about it, I have a feeling that as the die started to wear, they probably just destroyed them because they didn't want them to fall into the wrong hands. So would be my guess as well. If they weren't good enough to strike coins anymore, they probably just destroyed them or melted them and made new dies. Is probably, would be a reasonable thing to think of. So.
Yeah, I can imagine that too, Dub. See, they get some vans on which dies. Well, out of those, how many are of the same dies, do you think? Is it?
I haven't done a die study, but there isn't that many dies. And you got to remember, he was doing this Brutus was doing this while he was traveling in Greece and Turkey in the Civil War. So they were all traveling mints, because after he assassinated Julius Caesar, he was run out of Rome by basically by the Roman people, because one of the things that was really interesting is that in Julius Caesar's will, he left a ton of money to the Roman people. And so, of course, it was, and also Augustus was his adopted son, and he didn't take lightly to them assassinating Julius Caesar. And then the people didn't take lightly when they find out, there was a lot of good propaganda for Caesar leaving all of his wealth to the Roman people. So that pretty much ran or Brutus and his accomplices out of Rome. And so then they were in moving mints in Greece and Turkey. And so a lot of people, and what's crazy is that Brutus turned around and put his image on a coin, which was one of the reasons why Julius Caesar was assassinated, because he was making himself into a god, a dictator, And so, Brutus turns around and does the same thing. Yeah. And usually you don't put, you would put, I think on the obverse, it might say imp, which means that the Senate would have okayed him as emperor, but he was never given that title. So he kind of did it himself. And so the fact that he turned around and put his image on a coin after Julius Caesar was assassinated for essentially kind of the same thing. Because Julius Caesar was the first emperor to ever put an image on a coin. There was kings that did it during Greek time, but as far as the Romans went, Julius Caesar was the first. And so, and then he put in a lot of rules that made him dictator for life and all those things that weren't really highly agreed upon by a lot of people, some people in the Senate, obviously. They were striking coins. So this is actually a coronation issue when he became king. This is a siege issue. So as the empire was crumbling and they were held up in the church, they started melting down the candlesticks in the church and the die cutters that are already left. So they had shitty die cutters.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
The artwork's not very good. And they were actually literally striking these coins from the silver in the church at the last siege of Constantinople, the Roman Empire. So pretty important coins for that. Because you go, and that's what's crazy about this book too, because you start out with the beginning of coinage in 650 BC with coins looking like where are you? So here's the very first coin, which was just striated type.
Yeah.
With no image.
Yeah.
You go with really no imagery, no artwork.
Yeah.
And then in the middle, or like in the Greek time, you have this like amazing artwork.
Yep.
You get incredible artwork and imagery.
Yeah.
And then you get into about the gods. Then you get into the Roman Empire, which was just about the emperors and their accomplishments. And then you get into Christ, and then you end with crap again. I look at the artistic quality. Something may have terrible subpar surfaces, but it is a fantastic die. And I'll pay more money for that fantastic die over the mint state coin of a crappy die because the artwork's not as nice.
Like this right here has a few little.
Here, go back to your. I can't see your.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, thanks. Oh man. Here we go. Yeah, so like with this one, it has a couple little.
Yeah, who cares?
Pock marks there, but
you know what? Even though I don't play golf anymore, when I did play golf, I would say nobody's golf game is 100% all on. You either have your putting going, but your drives suck, or your drives and your putts are great, but your irons are crappy, and so nobody ever has it all together. And so ancient coins are kind of the same thing. It's very tough to get it all together. You're going to have a centering issue. You're going to have a mark. You might have a test cut. You might have crappy dies, surface issues on one side or the other. It's very difficult to get a perfect coin on both sides.
Now, since we're back on this a little bit, is it rare to get it signed by the same artist on both sides? Is it rare to have both sides signed?
I think signed dies in general are a scarcity. Yeah. Having them double signed is even better.
And I've also heard like sometimes one die cutter will work on one side and different on the other.
It's true. They did the same thing in Greek vases. So because you got to remember, in producing ancient art, they all had functional uses. So there was workshops. So in ancient Greek vases from the 4th century BC, they would have the master do the front side or the main side, and they would have apprentices do the back side. So you always have like less artwork on the back side than you do on the front. Coins are a little bit different. I think they always had great artists on both sides doing the work. With vases, it was a little bit different because they didn't care much, because most Greek vases were, functionally being used unless they were primarily made for funerary purposes. And so they would pump them out. And so you literally have, sometimes the master would do both sides if it was a really important vase, but generally speaking, the master would do one side, apprentices do the other side. Big drop off between the front and the back.
Yeah, I've seen that for sure on some of the.
Yeah.
Some of the coins.
So I think coins, they did play an important side, both sides, because it was really a representation of the city or the emperor. And so depending on the time period and all that, and what was important, I mean, look, like the Aegina turtle, they just had an incus on the reverse. So there wasn't a whole lot of importance played on the reverse of the coin, and that was just the style. A lot of archaic Greek coins are just incused on the reverse.
Yeah. However, there's some, for some reason, there's some very cool looking incus that
yeah, they were stylistically made that point.
I really enjoying your lots that you had in this one.
Yeah, like that one here, that's a double signed right there, the signed one right there to the left, the one for 9,000 that sold. I believe that's double signed.
Oh, okay. Let's see if I can. Where are we looking? Somewhere.
So see underneath the head and underneath the quadriga on the other side.
Oh yeah, okay. Oh, see that. Well, that's good info because so yeah, I was wondering like, how do you know that that's a signature? But that's kind of common, just the two letters like that.
Yep. Yeah, so that's double signed.
And that's by the same artist.
Yeah, same artist on both sides.
Yep. Okay.
But there's an issue of this type that has two separate artists as well.
Okay. Okay. Very cool.
Most people think of the head side first, but on most Sicilian coins, the obverse is the quadriga side, so the reverse is the head side. So it's a little bit swapped. And the reason is because horse racing was extremely important in the Greek period, and so that's actually the reverse of the coin, and the quadriga side is the obverse of the coin. So it's a little bit of a swap.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And there's only two artists that did this. That was Euenetos and Kimon. This is a Euenetos type. They're signed and unsigned dies. This is a signed die.
Oh, this is signed.
And
where is this?
They were primarily made for collectability. They weren't spent, and so they actually put the dies away and then came back 20 years later and restruck them with rusty dies, and so you get a lot of pit marks on them and things like that. That one might be from
rusty,
from the rusted die. Yeah.
But that's still nice quality though, even so.
Yeah. And we know these were very popular in ancient times because there's so many that survived, which means people kept them.
So is this his signature up here somewhere?
No, that's the name of the city.
Okay.
It's on the dolphin right there on the bottom.
Okay.
Under her neck. Okay. Right in there. It's just hard to see.
Okay.
It's on the dolphin itself, and it would just be 4 letters.
Okay.
And some of these dies are triple signed. There's the Kimon ones. There's a triple signed Kimon, which is got one on the there's a headband. We'll say KI. There'll be one on the dolphin, and then there's one on the quadriga side. So sometimes they're triple signed, which are really rare and very expensive.
Okay. And boy, this was a pretty one I liked too.
Yeah, so that's the Arethusa side that shows her underwater with the hair flowing up. That's a very popular type for that reason.
Very pretty coin for sure. Nice dolphin as well.
Yep.
Some of the dolphins are not.
See how it kind of like has that like ridge at the top that's like almost. Yep. So I once went to the British Museum and studied these with an academic who knew about this. And sometimes you'll see the little circle indentation on the obverse or reverse of the coin. And the idea is that these were actually, the way that they struck them was in a corkscrew method that would actually, when they struck the coin, it would like turn and get a higher struck up coin. And so sometimes you see the evidence of that corkscrew in the metal itself.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
That is. And so sometimes we know if a coin is fake based on the fact of how the coin looks and how the metal flowed.